Today we're going to rebuild this front wheel out of a mountain bike. First of all, we need to check it, make sure the rim is straight and round to make sure the rim is worthwhile rebuilding into another hub. We're going to demonstrate removing these spokes and then demonstrate putting a new hub into this rim. The tools we'll need today are laid out on the table here. In the first instance, bolt cutters, a spoke length measuring ruler, that's a special one, the various screwdrivers for replacing the nipples, and these are just examples of spoke keys. They're all different for different gauge spokes. This is a multi-tool for all different gauges, and these are all DT Swiss nipple keys for different gauge nipples. This is spoke freeze for locking the nipples in place once we've finished building the wheel, if necessary. We'll explain that later. We also need some sort of oil lubrication before we screw the nipples onto the new spokes. Of course, another tool we need to rebuild the wheel is some kind of truing stand. This is my original stand that I've been using, I think, since 1978, and it served me well. I must have built thousands of wheels using this stand. This is maybe the industry standard, or one of the industry standards for truing stands, the Park Professional stand. Despite the fact that this has all mod cons and it's an extremely good stand, I still prefer to use Old Faithful, simply because I'm used to using it. I can build wheels quite effectively using this basic stand. If necessary, you can build a wheel using just a pair of old bicycle forks and some sort of screw gauges like these ones here. More important than the truing stand is the centering gauge. You can get away without having a very complicated truing stand, but you do need a very good, accurate one of these centering gauges. So the first job we need to do with this wheel is to assess whether it's worth rebuilding. We have a wheel that we think the rim is good. We're going to replace the hub, but in this particular case the spoking has been done in a cross 4 pattern, which is not appropriate for a 36 spoke wheel. And if we have a close look at the way this spoking pattern has been done, it should have been done cross 3, but it was done cross 4. The tail of each spoke overlaps the head of the next one, which is not good practice. So we're going to rebuild this wheel using a 3 cross pattern instead of a 4 cross, and that will mean the spokes will actually be shorter than they are in this wheel, and they won't overlap the heads like this one does. So the first thing we need to do is to assess the soundness of the rim. There's no point in respoking a rim that has deviations or dints in it into a new hub with new spokes. I've set the wheel up into the truing stand, and I'm checking the rim for roundness, which is up and down. And we can check this by sight using this gauge here, or just your fingernail. It needs to be pretty good, otherwise it's not worth rebuilding. So we're also looking for lateral deviations on either side of the rim. It may have dints in it, they've hit some sort of obstacle on the road, and it may make the rim not worthwhile to rebuild. So we have 2 lateral gauges that are adjustable, and I'm looking down through the 2 lateral gauges at the space, and I'm using this white base plate down below, I can wind these gauges in and out to alter the gap. One thing we have to remember with a wheel truing stand is that it's not a jig. It doesn't build the wheel for you, and it can't make any decisions for you. It's just a gauge. People call them a wheel building jig, but there are no jigs involved in wheel building. I've established that the wheel is round up and down, and that it's true side to side. So we now have to remove these old spokes carefully before we can put the new spokes in and the new hub in.